Good morning from the kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to be making some zesty apple sauce, so hope you enjoy. So obviously the key ingredient is apples, and these are actually windfall apples that I foraged last week near Whitby, a place called Dunsley Hall. They were just going to be left to rot, so I brought them home with me and I'm going to make something with them. I really don't like waste. So apart from the apples, I'm going to need some sugar. There's a little bit there, I might need to go and pop up to the shop and get some more. I've got a little bit of fruity cut mixed peel, which is left from this year's Christmas cake, and also a very deep pan with a little bit of water in the bottom, not much, because you don't need a lot of water for this recipe. So I'm going to begin by cutting my apples, and it's a real rough cut, and you'll notice that I'm not peeling them, I'm not taking the pips out, I'm not taking anything off them, I'm keeping them as they are, because all of that stuff that I don't want in the applesauce will be strained out afterwards, and I'm going to show you that when I get to that stage. But for now, I've got quite a lot of apples to chop up. So I will be back once that's completed. So there are my apples in the pan. I've cut the smaller ones just in half and the larger ones into quarters. I'm going to actually just add a little bit of lemon juice on top. Just a little generous splash. There we go. That will do. The lid then goes on. Need to turn the gas on. Where are we? The back one. Fire it up. And there she goes. Right, so this is probably going to take... I don't want it nuked, so I'll just do it on a nice low heat. The water's got to boil. It doesn't take apples very long to break down, probably 20 minutes once the water underneath started simmering, so I'll be back in a little while. Okay, it's 25 minutes later. The apples have broken down very nicely. And you'll see how little effort is required to mush them up. I mean, they literally go to nothing. You don't even need a masher. I'm just hitting them with a wooden spoon and they're breaking up into nothing. Okay, so far it's been easy, but the next stage is where it gets a little bit more effortful. In fact, before I go on to the next stage, I'm just gonna let them bubble away for another 5 minutes. Now I've broken them up, and then the hard work begins. And it's not actually that hard. 5 minutes later, and yep, we're done. So I can turn the ring off, and I'm just going to give them a little stir around. And now here's an indication as to what comes next. And this is why I didn't bother peeling them. This is why I didn't bother taking the pips out, because I want to let the sieve do all that. And that means that we keep the maximum flavour by all the, the flavour from the peel and so forth. The extra flesh that's in the core, we'll get all that in there, and it's getting more apple than you would have done otherwise. What's left will go on the garden as fertiliser. So I'm going to begin by simply putting a ladle into the pot, getting some out, putting it into the sieve. You can see all the skins are in there and the pips and everything else. That's fine. Fill the sieve up a little bit. Okay, I wish it was as easy as that, but it's not. This is where you get arm ache. And I've got to do this now for all of it until all of the liquid has come through and all that's left is dry remnants, which will go on the garden. So this is going to take me a little while, so I'll be back when I've done it. So that's the first sieve full complete, and you can see we've got what looks like lovely applesauce already, unsweetened at this stage, and then the rubbish here. So I just put this onto a plate, and then this will end up going on the garden. The pan is now empty. Look at all that lovely apple puree. Not applesauce yet. And that's the rubbish that's left. So really, when you look at the amount compared to that, there's not much. And that's why I don't peel the apples first and core them first, because I think you end up wasting more. So there's my tip. So the next stage is going to be now to sweeten this. Now I'm going to add the sugar. Now there's no rule about how much sugar you add. It all depends on how sweet your tooth is. So I'm just going to begin by adding some, giving it a stir, and when all the sugar has seemingly disappeared, then I'll have a taste at the mixture. And when it tastes sweet enough, I'll stop adding sugar. We've all got different preferences. I've got a sweet tooth. You might not have as sweet a tooth as what I've got. So you really, put in as much or as little as you like, but you do need sugar in there because you need this to begin to thicken and set, and the sugar will help that. So I won't use the same spoon. Hygiene reasons. Have a little taste of that. It's nice, but it's not sweet enough yet. And also, the different varieties of apples that you use will dictate how much sugar you put in, because some of the more bitter varieties need more sugar, and some of the sweeter varieties don't. So just to show you, this was a brand new 2 kilogram bag of sugar, and there's 1395 left. So I've basically put 600 grams or 605 grams of sugar into the applesauce. Now I'm going to add the mixed peel, and this is leftover from a Christmas cake which I'm currently making, and it's what was left over, so I just thought I would add it to the applesauce to make it a little bit different. I've made applesauce with all sorts of other ingredients in: chilies, coriander, chives, mixed herbs, other fruit, and so this is just another variety. So I'm now going to stir that in, and you'll notice that the wok is really full. So that means that I need to be very careful when I'm cooking this. I have had many a disaster. Okay, that's stirred in nicely. So instead of putting the lid back on the wok, I'm going to use this here because I want this to cook now, but I don't want it to keep the steam. I want it to get rid of some of the moisture, and that will help the sort of the sugar to caramelise a little bit and thicken it all up. So it's just a case of putting that ring on and leaving it now, and then I'll come back and keep giving it a stir every 5 or 10 minutes. So you'll see why I've got this mesh on, because it does spit. And I'm just going to take it off for a second and give it a stir. And I can already feel the bottom of the pan is getting a bit tacky, which means that it's caramelising. That's fine. It won't burn if you don't have it on too high, and as long as you keep coming back and stirring it, you'll be fine. You might also notice that the colour is beginning to darken as it caramelises, and that will happen. It will probably end up quite a brownish colour, but that's fine. It's coming on nicely. I do like banging my spoon. So as you can hear, it's quite violent. Look at that landscape. It's like, wow, lava. Right. I'm going to turn the heat off at this point, because I think that's just about had enough. Right, I've took the grill off the top. Now you can see how much that sank, and that is because the water has evaporated, so there is now less content in there. But you'll also notice, if I just go around here, how tacky that's gone. And that's as it begins to caramelise, basically. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave it for a little while, and if it starts to get a good skin on top, then that's an indication that it's ready. There's another thing you can do, and I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to get myself a cold plate, and I'm just going to get a bit of this and put it onto the plate. And what I want to do is see if it forms a skin on top and sticks to the plate, and if it does, then it's ready. So I'll leave that for a little while. I'm now just boiling some water because I've got the jars here, but I want to sterilise them by putting some boiled water in, and also I'll pour some on top of the lids. These are just old jars which have had other things in. You know, it's all in the ethos of recycle, reuse. So that's what I've done there. And then moving on to the applesauce, you'll notice on the plate that it's sticking very nicely. So that means it's done. It's not got a hard skin, it's quite a soft skin. Tastes nice. And then just inside here, it's definitely got a skin there. You can see it's got a skin there. Quite gelatinous. So it is done, it's ready to be jarred, but I need to sterilise the jars first. And all that water, when it's been used, it will not be thrown down the sink. It will be watering the plants in the conservatory. I'm just going to leave these now to sterilise for 5-10 minutes, and then I shall jar up the applesauce. So it's now time to start jarring up. A job made a lot easier with the use of a funnel, and yeah, it does slop everywhere like I've just managed to do. So there'll be lots of cleaning as well. So I'm just going to get this done, and then I'll report back. So we're all jarred up. There's actually some more left, so I'll need to find another jar. But the next stage on this, I'm just going to show you on these ones, is to put some grease-proof paper on top. And the reason that I do this is that if some of these jars have had savoury content, the jars are clean and there's no smell, but sometimes the lids will retain the smell, and that will transfer to the applesauce. So if you put a piece of grease-proof paper in between, it stops that from happening. Top tip. So there we go, folks. A little bit more than I'd anticipated, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 jars is not too bad at all. All there need to be now is the paper needs trimming and then labels putting on, but I'll save that for another day. Hope you enjoyed it. See you later.